The broken soldier. The battlefield was silent now, but the silence was heavy. It was not the silence of peace, but the silence of death. Smoke rose slowly from black soil, broken machines lay twisted, and the smell of burning metal filled the air. Bodies of soldiers, both human and alien, were scattered like forgotten toys. And in the middle of this ruined ground, one man still breathed. He was a soldier, once strong, once proud, but now his body was broken. His left arm was wrapped in torn cloth. Bleeding, his armor cracked open like old glass. Every breath was painful. Every step felt like dragging chains. He had survived the battle, but he was not sure if survival was a blessing or a curse. The soldier had a name, but no one was left to call it. His unit was gone, his friend were gone, and only ghosts walked beside him now. He had fought for years, fought for honor, for duty, but now he wondered what was left. The war had taken everything, his family, his health, even the fire in his heart. A rescue team found him days later, half alive, half dead. They carried him to a recovery base far away from the front lines. It was not a hospital for heroes, but a graveyard for the forgotten. Here, broken soldiers waited for death or slow healing. And here, rejected war creatures were locked away, creatures bred for battle but cast aside when they failed. The soldier walked the base with slow steps, his arms still weak, his eyes empty. The other soldiers whispered about him, saying he should have died with his squad. But he ignored them, for he already felt more ghost than man. Days turned into weeks, and his world became gray. No sound, no laughter, no reason to live. Then, one day, his eyes fell on something strange. Behind rusted bars, in a small cage, sat a dragon. Not the mighty kind he had seen in war, not the black-scaled beast that burned cities. This one was small, thin, almost sickly. Its scales were pale white, almost glowing in the dark. Its red eyes watched the soldier with a strange calm. The soldier stopped, staring back. There was something different about this creature. It was not wild, not angry, not broken in rage. It was quiet, still, almost waiting. He asked the guard, "Why is it here?" The guard laughed. "That thing, it's useless, a mistake, an albino. It cannot fight. It cannot burn. It is nothing." But the soldier did not walk away. For reasons he could not understand, he felt a pull. He came closer, and the dragon did not move. It only blinked slowly, as if it had been waiting for him. The soldier saw himself in the creature. Rejected, unwanted, called useless, left to fade away. The days passed, and he found himself returning to the cage. He brought scraps of food, though the guards mocked him. The dragon ate silently, never snarling, never begging, only watching. Sometimes its red eyes followed him as he limped across the yard. Sometimes, when the night was quiet, he felt those eyes on him, even in his sleep. The soldier began to whisper to it. He told the dragon about the war, about his pain, about the nightmares that never left him. The dragon never answered, yet he felt less alone. It was as if the creature understood, as if it carried the same kind of scars. Slowly, the soldier felt something he thought was lost, connection, and with connection came the faintest spark of hope. But deep inside, something was wrong. There was a strange energy around the dragon, something the soldier could not name. When he touched the bars, the air felt colder, heavier, like the weight of unseen eyes. Sometimes he thought he heard whispers in the night. Not words, not clear sounds, just faint echoes. And every time, the dragon's red eyes glowed softly in the dark. One evening, the soldier stood before the cage. The sunset painted the sky blood red, and the dragon raised its head. For a long moment, they looked at each other, man and beast, both rejected, both broken. And in that moment, the soldier felt a strange truth. His life was not over. His story was not finished. For in the silence, in the still air, he knew this dragon was waiting for him, waiting for something he could not yet understand. And as the wind howled through the broken base, the soldier felt the first shadow of destiny moving closer. The dragon's red eyes blinked once, slow and certain. And though no words were spoken, the soldier felt it deep inside. The feeling that one day, this creature would change everything. The unexpected bond. The mornings at the recovery base were always the same. The sound of boots on gravel, the smell of cheap food, the dull voices of tired men. But for the wounded soldier, one thing had changed. He now had a reason to leave his room each day. The pale dragon, the unwanted creature in the cage, was waiting for him. At first, he only watched it from a distance. He thought maybe the pull he felt was just pity, nothing more. But every time his eyes met the dragon's red gaze, something stirred inside him. It was not pity, not fear, but something deeper, something he could not yet name. He began to bring food regularly, scraps of meat or bread stolen from his own plate. The dragon ate slowly, with calm patience, never fighting for food like the other beasts. It would lift its head after every bite, staring at him as if studying his soul. Other soldiers laughed when they saw. "Why waste your time on that mistake?" they mocked. "Albino freak can't fight, can't burn, it's dead weight." But the soldier did not answer them. He had heard those same words whispered about himself. He knew what it was like to be useless in the eyes of others. He knew what it was like to be left behind, and maybe that was why he stayed. One night, as the moon shone pale above the base, the soldier sat near the cage. He whispered about the battle he had survived, about the friends he had lost. The dragon lay curled, eyes half closed, listening, and though it gave no sound, the soldier felt lighter, as if his words did not vanish into the night, but were held gently by the creature. Day after day, the bond grew. The soldier began to notice small things. The dragon followed his steps with its head when he moved. It shifted closer to the bars when he came near. Sometimes, when he spoke softly, its tail tapped the ground like a heartbeat. One afternoon, a group of soldiers threw stones at the cage for sport. The albino dragon did not roar, did not fight. It only lowered its head and endured. The wounded soldier's anger burned hotter than his pain. He limped forward, shouting at them to stop. They laughed at him, calling him weak, broken, and blind. But he stood firm, his voice sharp with something he had almost forgotten: strength. The soldiers walked away, still laughing, but the dragon raised its head again. Its eyes glowed faintly, and for the first time, the soldier thought he saw respect. From that day, he cleaned the dragon's cage. He fetched water for it, brushed dirt from its scales. The creature allowed it, never biting, never resisting. And in those moments, man and beast were no longer strangers. They were two broken souls finding comfort in each other's silence. But there was something strange. Sometimes when he touched the cold bars, his skin tingled with static. Sometimes he felt warmth rise in his chest, like a forgotten fire. And always, the dragon's red eyes glowed a little brighter in those moments. It was as if the creature was waking up, slowly, because of him. One evening, rain poured heavy over the base. Most men stayed indoors, drinking and playing cards. But the soldier walked through the storm, drawn to the cage. There he found the dragon waiting, its scales shimmering under the wet sky. Lightning flashed, and for a moment, he swore he saw energy spark across its body. He pressed his hand against the bars, whispering, "You're not useless." The dragon stepped closer, pressing its nose against the same bars. Their breaths met, human and beast, warm in the cold rain. And for the first time, the soldier felt alive again. Not because he was healed, but because he was needed. As the storm raged above, a strange silence filled the space between them. The soldier closed his eyes, letting the rain wash over him. And then, for a brief second, he felt it, something like a heartbeat that was not his own, a rhythm echoing inside his chest, steady and powerful. He opened his eyes in shock, but the dragon only stared back, calm and certain. The bond was no longer just kindness, no longer just pity. It was something deeper, something that tied them in ways no chain could break. The soldier did not understand it yet, but he could feel it. This dragon was not meant to fade away in a cage, and he broken as he was not meant to fade away in silence. The moon broke through the clouds, shining silver on pale scales. And in that light, the soldier finally whispered the truth to himself. This creature is mine, and I am his. The dragon blinked slowly, its red eyes glowing like embers. And though no words were spoken, the soldier felt the answer deep inside his soul. The unexpected bond was no longer unexpected. It was destiny, waiting in silence, waiting for its time to awaken. Whispers in the dark. The nights at the recovery base were the hardest. When the sun was gone and the voices of soldiers faded, silence returned. It was not a peaceful silence, but a silence filled with memories. The wounded soldier often lay awake, staring at the cracked ceiling. Every blink brought flashes of the battlefield, blood, fire, screams. Sleep was no comfort, for sleep only carried nightmares. One night, unable to bear it, he rose from his bed. His broken body ached, but his mind ached more. He walked out into the cold yard, the moon hanging low. Rainwater from the last storm still pooled on the ground, reflecting silver light. And as always, his steps led him to the cage. The albino dragon was waiting, sitting still in the shadows, its red eyes burning softly. The soldier sat near the bars, wrapping his arms around his knees. He whispered, not expecting an answer, "I should have died out there." The dragon tilted its head, silent. The soldier sighed, "You don't care, do you?" But deep inside, he wished it did. A wind rose across the base, carrying dust and whispers of voices. The soldier leaned back against the cage, closing his eyes. For a moment, he thought he heard something faint. Not the wind, not his own breath, but something softer, closer. A sound like words buried deep underwater. His eyes snapped open, heart racing. He looked around, but no one was near. Then he heard it again, faint, delicate, but clear enough to chill his blood. It was a voice, not outside, but inside his head. And the voice spoke his name. Not shouted, not called, but whispered like a secret. He froze, staring at the dragon. Its mouth was closed, its body still, but its red eyes glowed brighter. "No," he whispered aloud, shaking his head. "This is madness. I've lost my mind." He pressed his hands against his skull, but the voice came again, calm and certain. This time it was not just his name. It carried a feeling, heavy and deep, a pull like gravity itself. The soldier stood quickly, stumbling back, his heart pounding. His wounds throbbed, his breath grew sharp. The dragon had not moved, but he felt its presence stronger than ever. As if the voice was not sound, but a thread tying their minds together. A thread he could not cut, no matter how hard he tried. That night, he did not sleep. He sat awake, waiting for the voice to return. Every shadow seemed alive. Every creak in the walls made his skin crawl. But the voice did not return. It left him with questions that twisted in his head like knives. The next morning, he tried to ignore it. He told himself it was just stress, just trauma. But when he returned to the cage, the dragon's eyes met his. And he felt it again, faint but real, like an echo inside his chest. This creature was not ordinary. It was not weak, not useless, not broken. It was something else, something far beyond what the others believed. Days passed, and the whispers grew bolder. Sometimes he would hear them when no one was around. Sometimes in the middle of the night, the voice called him softly, not with commands, not with threats, but with strange words he could not fully understand. And always it carried his name. He tried to test it, asking questions in his mind. At first, there was no answer, only silence. But then, once, when he thought the words, "Are you real?" the voice came back. A single word whispered inside him, "Yes." He dropped the water bucket he was carrying, his hands trembling. The dragon only watched, its gaze calm, unblinking. But the soldier felt no comfort, only fear. If this was real, then the creature was far more dangerous than anyone knew. And yet, beneath the fear, something else stirred. The voice was not cruel, not cold. It carried warmth, like a hand reaching through the dark. The soldier felt it pulling him, like a tide he could not resist. For the first time since the war, someone or something was speaking to him, not mocking, not pitying, but truly seeing him. One stormy night, the whispers came again, stronger than before. The soldier sat in his room, staring at the rain dripping through broken windows. And then the voice filled him, not faint this time, but sharp and clear. It called his name again, but with power, with certainty. He stood, breathless, and looked out toward the cage in the yard. The dragon was awake, its pale body glowing faintly in the lightning. Its red eyes locked on his window, and though its mouth never moved, the words rang inside his mind like thunder. "You are mine." The soldier staggered back, gripping the wall. His chest felt heavy, his mind spinning. Fear and awe crashed together inside him. The dragon had spoken, not with voice, not with sound, but with something deeper, something that broke the silence of his soul. In that moment, he understood one truth. He was no longer alone. The bond was no longer silent, and the darkness around him was no longer empty. The dragon had chosen him, and nothing would ever be the same again. Secrets revealed. The soldier could not forget that night. The whisper of the dragon still echoed inside his skull, soft but heavy. "You are mine," it had said, and those words would not leave him. He tried to convince himself it was madness, a wound in his mind that never healed. But each time he looked at the pale creature, he felt the same pull, the same thread tying their souls together. For days, he avoided speaking to it. He brought food in silence, refusing to let his thoughts wander. But the dragon was patient, its red eyes always following him. And sometimes, in the corner of his mind, he felt the faintest whisper. Not words, not commands, but quiet notes of presence, like breathing beside him in the dark. One evening, he could bear it no longer. He returned to the cage under the pale light of the moon. The dragon lifted its head, as if waiting. The soldier closed his eyes and thought, "What are you?" At first, only silence, then the answer came, not in sound, but in a voice inside his chest, steady and deep. "I am not what they believe. I am more." The soldier gripped the bars, his hands trembling. His heart pounded as he thought, "Why me? Why do you speak to me?" The dragon's eyes glowed brighter, its pale scales shimmering faintly. The voice returned, whispering inside him, "Because you are broken, like me, because you are chosen." The words cut into him, heavy and unreal. Chosen. How could he be chosen? He was nothing but a ghost of a soldier. Yet the dragon's voice carried no doubt, no hesitation. It was not a trick, not a game, it was truth. And he could feel that truth pressing on his soul. The soldier whispered aloud, "Chosen for what?" The dragon lowered its head, its gaze deep as fire and ice. "For what comes," it answered. The soldier shivered, his skin crawling with unease. He wanted to ask more, but the words stuck in his throat. And then the dragon spoke again. "They cast me aside because I am different, but difference is power." Images flashed in the soldier's mind. Burning skies, towers falling, armies crushed. And through it all, he saw pale wings stretched wide, glowing like lightning. He staggered back, clutching his head. The visions vanished as quickly as they came, leaving only silence. His breaths came fast, his body shaking. The dragon had placed something inside him, a memory or a warning. And deep inside, he knew it was real. The next day, he tested the bond again. While cleaning the cage, he asked silently, "Why were you made?" The dragon replied, slow and calm, "To fight, to burn, to kill, like all of my kind, but I was born without flame, so they call me useless." The soldier paused, staring into those crimson eyes, and the voice continued, "But my flame is not fire. My flame is truth. I see what others cannot. I hear what others hide." The soldier felt the weight of those words. This creature was not just a mistake. It was something hidden, something rare. He realized then why the bond felt so strong. The dragon was not only rejected, it had been feared, and now, For reasons he could not yet understand, it had chosen him. That night, the bond deepened. The soldier sat by the cage, his thoughts open. He asked, "What do you want from me?" The answer came without delay. To rise, to stand, to be more than broken. He shook his head, tears burning in his eyes. "I can't," he whispered. "I'm finished. I have nothing left." The dragon's gaze did not waver, its voice like a steady flame. "You are wrong. You have me." The words struck him harder than any blade. He had fought for commanders, for nations, for people who forgot his name. But here was a creature, once cast away like him, saying he was not nothing, saying he was needed. And in that moment, something cracked inside the soldier's chest. Not pain, but the first light of belief. The days that followed were no longer empty. He spoke more, and the dragon answered more. Sometimes with words, sometimes with images burned into his mind. He learned that their bond was not chance, it was something old, a link written in their blood, deeper than any chain of war. And though he did not yet know the purpose, he knew one thing for certain. This creature was no longer just an outcast in a cage. It was his companion, his secret, his reason to keep breathing. But with secrets came danger. Already, some soldiers had begun to notice the strange closeness between man and beast. They whispered in dark corners, suspicion growing. The soldier knew it would not be long before someone tried to take the dragon away. And the thought of losing it now filled him with fear. For he could not explain it, but deep in his heart, he knew if the dragon was taken, a part of him would die with it. As the sun set one evening, painting the sky blood red, the dragon pressed its pale head against the bars, its crimson eyes glowing. The soldier leaned forward, resting his hand against the cold iron. And in the silence, the voice filled him again, stronger this time. "Your path is not behind you. It waits ahead, and I will walk it with you." The soldier closed his eyes, feeling the truth of those words sink deep. For the first time in years, he believed in tomorrow. Not because of war, not because of duty, but because of the secret he now shared with a pale dragon that whispered in the dark. Rising conflict. The bond between soldier and dragon grew stronger with each passing day. What began as small whispers had become conversations in silence. What began as pity had become something deeper, something unspoken. The soldier no longer limped through the base with empty eyes. He carried a hidden fire now, faint but alive. And the dragon, once weak and forgotten, now watched the world with sharper gaze. But whispers spread quickly in the base. Other soldiers noticed the strange closeness, the way the pale beast followed his every move. They mocked him at first, calling him the dragon's pet. But laughter soon turned to suspicion. Why was the useless creature still alive? Why did it obey only him? Why did the broken soldier look less broken when he stood near the cage? One afternoon, a commander approached, his face cold as stone. He stopped the soldier in the yard and asked, "Why do you waste time with that thing?" The soldier gave no answer, only lowering his gaze. The commander studied him for a long moment before saying, "Be careful. Not all creatures deserve a second chance." The words were simple, but the warning was sharp. The soldier felt the dragon's whisper in his mind then, faint but certain. "They will try to take me." That night, the soldier sat in his room, hands shaking. He could feel the truth of the warning in his bones. The bond had given him strength, but also painted a mark on his back. The dragon spoke again, voice calm like deep water. "They fear what they do not understand. They fear me. They will fear you." The days grew tense. Soldiers followed him with narrow eyes. Guards lingered longer by the cage, their hands on their rifles. Rumors swirled through the camp like smoke. Some said the albino dragon had cursed him. Others whispered it was using him as a vessel. The soldier said nothing, but inside his chest, anger grew. He had lost everything to war, and now they wanted to take the only thing he had left. Then came the test. During a drill, the commanders ordered the soldier to prove his loyalty. They told him to step away from the cage, to let the dragon starve for a week. Break the habit, they said, Show us you are still one of us." The soldier's blood ran cold. He stood frozen, knowing what their eyes demanded. To them, the dragon was only an animal, but to him, it was more than life. And in his silence, he felt the dragon's voice again. "Do not abandon me." The soldier clenched his fists, his voice low. "I won't." The commanders frowned, their suspicion confirmed. From that moment, he was watched day and night. Every step, every whisper, every glance at the dragon was noted. The noose was tightening. But destiny did not wait. One evening, alarms shattered the air. Sirens screamed, boots thundered, voices shouted. The base was under attack. Strange creatures swarmed through the broken fences, beasts of steel and shadow, engines of war not seen before. The soldiers scrambled, rifles firing, but the enemy moved too fast, too strong. Panic spread like fire in dry grass. The wounded soldier rushed to the cage, his heart pounding. The dragon stood tall inside, its pale scales glowing faintly under the red lights. He shouted at the guards to free it, but they refused. "Leave it," they barked. "It's useless. It will only get in the way." But the soldier knew the truth. This was no useless creature. This was power, waiting to be set free. Bullets tore the air. Explosions shook the ground. The soldier grabbed a fallen rifle and turned it on the lock. One shot, two shots, the bars cracked open. The dragon burst from the cage, stretching its pale wings for the first time. The soldiers gasped, some even screamed. The albino beast looked nothing like the monsters they had seen before. Its eyes blazed crimson, its body shining white like a ghost in the storm. The soldier climbed onto its back without thought, as if he had always belonged there. The dragon leapt into the sky, its wings cutting through smoke and fire. The bond between them flared like lightning. The soldier felt strength surge through his veins, his pain forgotten. The dragon's voice filled him, louder than ever before. "We fight as one." They dove into the battle, man and dragon against the storm. The pale beast struck with speed and power no one had imagined. Its wings sent enemies crashing. Its claws tore through steel. And for the first time, sparks of strange light burned from its jaws, not fire, but white flame that seared through machines like paper. The base that had mocked it now watched in awe and terror. The useless creature was no longer useless. But as the soldier raised his weapon and the dragon burned their foes, he saw something that froze his blood. In the chaos, the enemy commander stood tall, armored in black. And when his gaze fell on the pale dragon, he did not laugh, he did not fear. Instead, he whispered words carried by the storm. "So, the albino has chosen a human." The soldier's heart thundered. The battle raged around him, but those words echoed louder than gunfire. Chosen, yes, but for what? The dragon's voice came sharp and fierce inside his mind. "The old enemy knows me, but I know them, and together we will end them." The night burned with war, but the real battle had only just begun. The trial of fire. The night sky was burning. Flames rose from broken towers. Smoke swallowed the stars, and the sound of war echoed like thunder across the recovery base. Men screamed, machines roared, and the ground shook beneath endless waves of steel and flesh. The wounded soldier clung to the pale dragon's back, his body pressed tight against the cold scales. For the first time since the war began, he felt not broken, not weak, but alive. The albino dragon soared above the chaos, its wings stretched wide. Below, the enemy swarmed like ants, armored beasts with glowing eyes tearing through the camp. The soldiers of the base fought hard, but they were falling outnumbered, outmatched. Fear spread through them like poison. But the pale dragon cut through the smoke like a ghost of light, its crimson eyes glowing like fire in the dark. The soldier raised his rifle, firing from the dragon's back. Every shot found its mark, guided by instinct, guided by the bond. The dragon twisted and turned, its movements sharp and smooth as if it knew every danger before it came. Explosions lit the sky, but none touched them. The bond between man and beast had become more than trust. It was survival itself. Then came the moment of truth. A towering machine rose from the battlefield, a war engine taller than any wall. Its arms spun with blades, its chest glowing with a core of fire. Soldiers screamed and scattered, none daring to face it. But the dragon did not flee. It hovered in the smoke, wings beating, its body trembling with a power it had never shown before. The soldier felt it too, a heat rising in his chest. Not from fire, not from rage, but from something deeper, something ancient. The dragon's voice filled his mind, not a whisper this time, but a roar. Hold on, this is our trial. The machine raised its weapon, sending a storm of bullets tearing through the air. The dragon dived, twisting, rolling, the soldier gripping its scales with all his strength. The world spun around him. Flashes of fire, shards of steel, cries of men. Then the dragon opened its jaws. No flame came, no smoke, but a blinding light. White fire burst forth, silent yet deafening. It struck the machine's chest, burning through metal like paper. The war engine shuddered, cracked, and collapsed into the dirt. The battlefield froze. Both friend and enemy stared in shock, their eyes wide with disbelief. A dragon that could not breathe fire had unleashed a flame brighter than the sun. The soldier's heart raced, his hands shaking. He felt the heat of the blast in his bones, but it did not burn him. It felt like the fire belonged to him as much as it did to the dragon. The enemy did not stop. More machines surged forward, more beasts charged. But the dragon roared, its pale throat glowing with power. It unleashed another wave of white fire, sweeping across the battlefield. Enemies fell one after another, melted, shattered, erased. The soldiers of the base shouted in awe and terror, some dropping their weapons, some falling to their knees. The useless albino was no longer useless. It was a weapon greater than any they had ever seen. But power came with cost. The dragon faltered after each blast, its wings trembling, its body shuddering under the strain. The soldier pressed his hand to its neck, whispering through the bond, "You're not alone. I'm here, we fight together." The dragon steadied itself, its breath rough, but its eyes burning bright. Yes, it answered together. Through smoke and fire, they fought side by side. The soldier's rifle cracked like thunder. The dragon's flame blazed like dawn. Each time they struck, enemies fell, but each strike pulled them closer to exhaustion. Still, neither stopped, neither yielded. For in that trial, in that storm, they found what they were meant to be. Not broken, not rejected, but chosen. Then, as the last wave fell, silence returned. The base was shattered, the ground blackened, but the enemy was gone. The soldiers stood frozen, staring at the pale dragon and the man on its back. Some looked with awe, some with fear. The commander stepped forward, his face pale, his eyes unblinking. He whispered, What are you?" But the soldier gave no answer. He only rested his hand on the dragon's scales, breathing hard, his heart still burning with white fire. Far beyond the smoke, on the edge of the battlefield, the enemy commander still stood. His black armor glimmered under the broken sky. He had not fought, he had only watched. And when the pale dragon lifted its head, the commander smiled. "So, it awakens," he murmured, his voice carried by the wind. "The trial has begun." The soldier felt those words even from a distance. A chill colder than death ran down his spine. The dragon turned its head, its voice whispering inside him. This is only the beginning. The night was theirs, but the war was not over. The trial of fire had awakened something far greater. And in the glow of white flame, the soldier knew their true battle had yet to come. The final choice. The battlefield lay in ruins. The air still burned with smoke, the ground was scarred black, and the cries of the wounded echoed in the night. But above the broken camp, silence hung heavy. The albino dragon stood tall, its pale wings folded close, its body trembling with exhaustion. The soldier slid down from its back, his legs weak, his heart still racing with the memory of white fire. Around them, soldiers stared in stunned silence. Some with awe, some with fear, some with envy. The commander stepped forward, his eyes fixed on the pale beast. "That thing," he muttered. "It is not a mistake, it is a weapon." Murmurs spread like fire through the ranks. But the soldier stepped in front of the dragon, his voice low and firm. "No, it is not just a weapon, it is mine." The words sent ripples across the crowd. Whispers turned to shouts, some demanding the dragon be handed over, others demanding it be destroyed. The commander's face hardened. "You have no right to claim it, soldier. It belongs to the war. It belongs to humanity, not to you." The soldier clenched his fists, his voice sharp. "I have given everything to this war, my blood, my brothers, my soul. And now, this is all I have. I will not give it up." The standoff grew heavy. Every eye locked on him, every rifle close at hand. The dragon lowered its head, pressing its pale snout against his shoulder. And then its voice filled his mind, steady and calm. "This is the choice. Will you walk with me, or will you fall with them?" The soldier's breath caught. The choice was not just about keeping the dragon. It was about leaving behind the life he had known. The war, the orders, the chains that bound him to a world that saw him as broken. He looked around at the faces of men who never believed in him. Then he turned to the pale eyes that had never doubted him. In that moment, he knew the truth. He was no longer just a soldier. He was something more, and so he whispered back, "I will walk with you." The dragon's eyes glowed brighter, its wings shivering with energy. The bond flared like a star, burning inside both man and beast. For the first time, the soldier felt whole. Not half alive, not broken, but complete. But fate did not wait. As the fires dimmed, a deep hum filled the sky. The soldiers lifted their heads, their eyes wide with dread. From above, a shadow spread across the camp. A massive shape broke through the clouds, glowing with lights not of this world. A ship, black as night, larger than anything human hands had built. The enemy had not retreated. They had only been waiting. The black-armored commander stood at the edge of the battlefield, his gaze fixed on the pale dragon. His voice boomed across the smoke, carried by machines and thunder. "You cannot hide it now. The bond has awakened, and the call has been sent." The soldier felt the dragon's voice inside him again, sharper than ever. "The signal is heard. They know us. They call for us." The soldier gasped, "Who calls?" The dragon's eyes burned crimson. Not human, not dragon. Something older, something that waits beyond the stars. The sky split open with light. A soundless wave rippled across the earth, shaking every bone in the soldier's body. The pale dragon lifted its head, wings spreading wide as if answering. And inside the soldier's chest, the voice came one last time. "Your choice is made. Now you are mine, and I am yours. And together, we belong to something far greater." The soldiers around them fell to their knees, some in fear, some in prayer. The commander stared in silence, his face pale as stone. The black ship loomed above, glowing brighter. And the soldier, standing at the dragon's side, felt his heart tremble with both fear and wonder. This was no longer just about survival. This was no longer just about war. It was about destiny. The soldier had chosen, but he did not yet know the cost. The pale dragon lowered its head, whispering the final words inside his soul. "The war behind us is nothing. The true battle waits ahead." And as the sky burned with alien light, the soldier realized his journey had only just begun.